This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. John Brummett from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette joins us for our weekly conversation. We'll focus on Governor Sarah Sanders' response to the State of the Union address, as well as her education details that she rolled out in a press conference last week. And we'll play back some of our interview with Jacob Oliva. He is the new Arkansas Secretary of Education. I sat down with him over the weekend for a conversation on Capitol View. How will these education freedom accounts work? This is part of Governor Sanders' voucher program for her education overhaul. All of this and more on today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. Talk Business and Politics Daily is brought to you by Wright Lindsay Jennings Law Firm, Impact Management Group, and these sponsors.
We proudly deliver reliable, affordable, responsible power across Arkansas. But demand for electricity is strained by the elimination of sources we need for always-on reliability. And adding intermittents like wind and solar cannot replace workhorses like coal and natural gas that we all count on. Power must be balanced for your needs and our mission. Reliable, affordable, responsible. We're the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas.
Connection. It's the heart of what we do. It's why we work to better the communities where we live and work. It's why we're expanding to get people connected and create digital equity programs that support affordable internet and digital literacy. We're leaders for positive change. From the way we empower our people, clients, and communities to the way we care for our planet. We live our values every day. We're Cox Communications, and we're pleased to connect with you.
Together we can create an Arkansas that places children and families at the very top of the agenda.
We can create the type of Arkansas that we have always imagined.
Arkansas Advocates as an organization is the glue that can put all those families' voices together.
Welcome back to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you as always, sir, at the beginning of a week.
And good to see you. Good to be with you.
All right. My sources tell me that you were at a Bruce Springsteen concert this past weekend. So I pose this question to you first and foremost.
Okay.
Who was the better performer this weekend, Bruce Springsteen or Rihanna at the Super Bowl?
You know, I just read that Donald Trump didn't, that he tweeted, or he doesn't tweet, he goes on his own site to criticize Rihanna as horrible, the worst show ever. But it's mainly because she spray painted an obscenity about him on a car one time. So I've softened my animosity toward her performance based on that. But to answer your question, Springsteen played live for 3 hours to 20,000 people in the American Airlines Center in Dallas, came out and said his right-hand man, his wingman, Stevie Van Zandt, was out with COVID. Another key bandmate was out with COVID. His wife, Patty, who plays, had chosen to stay home or wasn't feeling so good. But he said, I'm going to give you the best blankety-blank show you've ever seen. It was the most gallant effort I'd ever seen. And he was having to do lead guitar work, and he added a couple of medleys, a lot of energy, and a bunch of 60 and 70-year-old people exercising their bodies in ways I bet we hadn't in quite some time. So I'm a Springsteen guy. So it was a great event for old rockers.
Well, and now that's not the first time you've gotten to see him live, is it?
No, it's about the 8th time.
Okay.
And there was some, and for the last 3 or 4 times, I and some of the other local few Springsteen freaks have said, we got to get to Dallas because this will be the last time. That hadn't been the last time. He's now 73. But he had a song, Last Man Standing, meaning of his first teenage rock group. They're all gone now except him. And after his raucous, anthemic usual close of the concert, he did a little acoustic thing, said, I'll see you in my dreams. I thought that was kind of poignant. this could have been the last time, and I'm glad I got to see him.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
move on to politics, which is the main reason that we get together and talk here. I love talking about the other stuff.
Not as important, but the main reason. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This past week, Governor Sarah Sanders gives a response to the State of the Union address from President Joe Biden. Then the Democrats give a response through Ashley Hudson, state representative from Little Rock, to Sarah Sanders' response to the State of the Union address. I was waiting to see who was going to give the Ashley Hudson response, but it never showed up. But let's give your analysis of what she talked about. I'm not asking that whether you liked it or not. I want you to tell me how effective Sarah Sanders' response to the State of the Union was.
I've declared it in a column yesterday, like Biden's, somewhere in the range of adequate to triumphant. Considering that, it wasn't about policy. It wasn't about a mass appeal. It was about appealing to the base. I thought that's what she does. She is a champion of talking points, and she went out there with her talking points. And I thought it was probably a little better than adequate, a little less than triumphant, somewhere in there. Pretty good for what she was supposed to do. It was not a response, but it was a Republican ad, and she performed well enough. You know, the Republicans had two policies: cut income taxes and repeal Roe v. Wade. The taxes have been cut enough for now, I think, with the Trump cuts. Roe v. Wade is now gone. And the Democrats have all these progressive bills, but the Republicans basically, what they're doing is creating, I think, a culture war by taking advantage of all this, I agree, ridiculous wokeness in some circles, and trying to fashion it, as she has done, as something that's coming upon all of us. It's a culture war that's a threat to all of us. It really isn't day to day. It's contained to certain academic and other quarters. But that's what they're going for. And she talks it well. She is trained as a political operative in her talking points, and she did her job and did it well enough, seems to me.
She lets out in the speech there, and we got a little heads up from a media advisory. She was going to reveal some new details of her Learns education package, which she did roll out some news the following day in that press conference on the stairs of the leading up to the House of Representatives. We did get a definitive number of $50,000 for new minimum teacher starting pay. And we also got the word education freedom accounts out there in terms of how this voucher program is going to work. So we got a few new details in there. Now that you've seen that, how quickly do you think this plows through the Arkansas legislature? Do you think it'll take 2 weeks to get to her desk, or will it be there sooner? What's the over-under?
The over-under would be 10 days, say, probably. First of all, I just want to say no greater evidence have we seen than that her governorship is about national talking points, national Republican talking points. Than that, she announces to the nation in her promotional statement for the Republican Party that, oh yeah, here in Arkansas, I'm going to unveil the greatest education program ever tomorrow. She chose to tell that to a national audience without having made any announcement here, while people in the legislature here and people in the media and people in the school systems are wondering, where is it? What's it going to be? So the big announcement was made with Arkansas as kind of an afterthought or an example in her national message. So here's what she did the next day. She didn't present her bill, still hasn't. And bills are what matter. The real debate used to occur when you get out there in a complicated bill on an important matter, and you have long legislative committee hearings and you have consideration of amendments. What she did was get at the foot of the state capitol stairs and assemble and fill those stairs with the largest gathering of white people I've seen in a long time. The Arkansas Republican Legislative Caucus which is substantial and large. They all willingly went down and stood behind her as she announced an outline of a bill to come. So I ask you, is that bill likely to pass, no matter what's in it? Because it's been prematurely endorsed, essentially, by the show of support by the people who will be voting on it, who have plenty of votes to pass it easily. The one thing you got to look at is this outline started making its way around social media, and superintendents start talking to each other about, ooh, this here, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about, what about this? What about this? It used to be that legislators, particularly rural legislators from small towns, were beholden to their superintendents. Superintendents were powerful political lobbyists, because some of these communities have nothing but a public school. And if you've ever gone through the consolidation debate, you know that's hard to get done because of the power of the small school superintendents. So will there be some conservative Republican legislative stalling, pushback, or even proposed amendment in service to concerns from the superintendents? That's the only thing. But even so, they get those done expeditiously, because she's not going to put it in until it's ready, I guess. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's as good as law, it seems to me, because the legislature has voted for it. You know, they voted for it by their endorsing it, by standing with her when she announced a mere outline of it. I've never seen anything quite that one-party authoritarian in my time of covering Arkansas politics, which is substantial. But that's the state we're in.
I'll give you two other things to kind of keep an eye on beyond the pushback from the superintendents that you talked about there. Number one, the price tag on this. It has not been scored for fiscal impact yet. She threw out the number of $300 million. I've talked to several sources that say that that's wishful thinking. Now we'll see what she gets in terms of a score, but I think the DFNA has to score it. I think the Bureau of Legislative Research also scores it too. If this thing spirals up to $400, $500, $600 million, do they keep it intact, I guess, or do they scale something back a little bit?
No, thank you for that. That is a good point. And all you do in that case is the thing you're phasing in largely, or the things that you're spending. You may have to phasing in of the vouchers or pre-K spending. You just extend it. You phase it in longer to make it fit the budget, because they got to oblige Sarah, because this is her thing. So it doesn't change substantively, and it will pass in large substance. But if there is a financial concern, scale it back, phase it in longer, get it out of here, because this is what she wants and this is what we're all about. But that is, in addition to the superintendent pushback, yes, that's something to keep an eye on. And I'd forgotten in answer to your question that in predicting 10 days, sometimes these fiscal things take about that long themselves, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So maybe we need to up our over-under to 2 weeks.
And I don't think that this other potential factor stops it from passing, but I think it's something to watch for after it passes, and that is the Lakeview decision that has guided or throttled, depending on your point of view, the Arkansas's education policy for the last 20-something years. But there is going to be a lawyer, if not a litany of lawyers, that are going to find plenty of opportunity to challenge this law once she gets it passed on the premises of Lakeview. And that will be a curious one to watch. Does it delay some implementation? Does it perhaps cause something to come off the rails? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I've been writing that and wondering if anybody else was going to say it, and you just did. That's why I had a little moment of celebration when you said that. When you deliberately say we're going to take money that now goes to the traditional public schools, and any parents who want to move their child elsewhere will take the money out of that school and move them to a private or church school if they want, for the purposes of competition between those two schools. In other words, we're going to try to make them better, but we're going to take their money away right now for this one that's already better. And then you consider that in what's the constitutional case law of the state in Lakeview, which is it is the sole responsibility of the state to assure equitable and adequate educational opportunities for all our children. Are you doing that when you leave some in a district that you're taking money from to give to a non-public institution with public money? I've been wondering, aren't there, surely lawyers are out there warming up. I have not heard from one who is, but I'm glad to hear you bring that issue up and suggest there will be. You could get an injunction against this thing, and you could, and probably ought to, because I think it raises serious, when the Supreme Court issues a ruling, and that's the most recent ruling, state Supreme Court, and that's the most recent ruling on that issue, then it is case law. It is the law, and you can't go break it, at least without some complication. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Just trying to give you column ideas, John. That's my job.
Well, I've written that, but I wonder where. But it's just fallen on. Well, no, I've had a couple of lawyers say, well, it's more complicated than you say. However, yes, there may be some possibilities there, or some imperatives to litigate some of this. So I certainly hope so, because we don't need to rush to make education intentionally unequal under the guise of reforming it. And I sort of think that's what this does.
All right, we will see if the bill gets filed this week. There is some speculation that it might. If it does, we'll get perhaps even more details that we can drill into the next time that you and I are together. He's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Thank you for your time.
See you next week, Robbie. Bye-bye.
We're back with more right after this. Talk Business and Politics Daily is brought to you by Wright Lindsay Jennings Law Firm, Capital Advisors Group, and these sponsors.
One of the things that I really liked about UAMS College of Health Professions is that they set me up for success. I chose UAMS because I felt like it was a great place to work. My grandmother was diagnosed at UAMS for multiple myeloma, and I felt like it would be a great way to pay back the place that helped my grandmother so much. And that's why I went in the healthcare field in the first place, is to help someone just like they've helped my grandmother.
For your education and healthcare needs, choose UAMS.
This is what we work for. The moments you live for. The joy. The heart. The wonder. At Entergy, we're dedicated to powering each moment. Today and for future generations. So we're leading the way with a cleaner, more reliable power grid to power every day. Because these moments matter. We power life. Entergy.
Well, this weekend on Capitol View, I was able to sit down with Arkansas's Secretary of Education, Jacob Oliva. We talked about a variety of subject matter related to Governor Sarah Sanders' education reform plan called LEARNS. Specifically, how will this voucher program work, these education freedom accounts that will be set up to allow public school money to follow students to whatever choice they make for schools? All right, let's talk about education freedom accounts first, because I think that's going to be a new concept to a lot of Arkansans out there. Kind of what will they allow, who's going to qualify, and how do they work, I think would be just a general question.
So I think it's important to note that this entire comprehensive package is really about improving learning and access for learning for all students. And I'm a product of public schools. I worked in public schools. I believe public schools should be the first and best choice for families and students. But the reality is a one-size-fits-all approach to public education may not meet the needs of all students and families. So what this program does is it creates opportunities for families and students to find alternative methods to the traditional public school. Some families may choose virtual schools, some families may choose homeschool, some families may do dual enrollment or choice opportunities within a school district. But this Freedom Fund is about providing dollars to families and resources to families if they want to choose primarily private education. That concept's not new to Arkansas. There's a small program right now called the Succeeds program. This is really going to expand on those opportunities for families. The
Succeed program, I think, is a tax credit. Is this going to be a tax credit? Is it going to be money up front? I know some states have like a card that allow you to, charge expenses on it. How will the freedom accounts work?
So part of those details, I think, are still being ironed out as we work with the legislature. But kind of the overall concept is that students would be able to enroll in a private school that participates in this program. It's important to note that this isn't being forced on families. This isn't being forced on private schools. There's going to be conditions that have to be met and criteria to make sure that if parents are choosing this opportunity, that their children are going to be educated appropriately. But the spirit of this would be when a private school signs up to participate in this program and is vetted, that they would receive direct payments from the state for that to happen.
Okay, so and the conditions that you're talking about that they would have to kind of adhere to, those will be developed in rules and regs probably as this law would be implemented.
You're right. As we work out those details, and we'll see what's in the legislative package, and then additionally there'll be state board rules, but we want to make sure that the schools are accredited, that they're assessing their students in an appropriate manner, and that they have the ability to open school.
This is a 3-year phase-in. Tell me why that was decided to do that way. It will eventually be universal, and would the first year be this next school year? Do you think it can get in place that quickly, or do you think it'll be the year after that?
The intent would be for this upcoming school year for 23-24 to get the program up and running, which is why it's phased in. It's going to be scaled in over time because we're building a lot of systems. We're going to develop a lot of rules, but we're going to prioritize our most fragile learners, students that are stuck in a failure factory. If their zip code school is an F and they know that they can thrive in another learning environment, we're going to make sure we prioritize those students, prioritizing students with disabilities, prioritizing students that are learning English as a second language. We have some students that are in the foster or homeless programs. We want to prioritize those students and the students of our military service members as well.
That's Jacob Oliva. He's Arkansas Secretary of Education. You can catch a whole lot more of that conversation on our website at talkbusiness.net. That's all for today's program. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.